You are listening to the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks.
War Eagle Auburn fans, and welcome to Tiger Tracks, your source for Auburn's cross-country and track and field news and discussion. I'm your host, Jessica Loomis, and I'm here with my husband and candy-eating co-host, Kyle, to discuss the SEC Championship meet held in Columbia, Mississippi.
Wow, way to make me feel like a fatty.
It is Halloween when we're recording this.
That's fair, and you already set out the candy bowl, so here I am just trying to enjoy some of the treats before the kids get here.
I have been too.
Oh, so you're going to drop guilt on me.
I didn't say guilt.
Oh, you did.
I said candy eating, meaning you're sweet.
But they don't need to know that. Oh, you were not trying to say I was sweet. Don't even play.
Okay, well.
No, see, you just dropped the adjectives.
I said what I said.
You said what you said, and it hurt my little feelings. And I probably need to go run now because I need to work off these calories.
That's fair. Who do you think you can keep up with? Because it's going to be none of these athletes.
Listen.
Maybe me. Maybe you could keep up with me.
We've been looking. No, probably not. We've been looking at these times for several years now, and I don't see one in my lifetime that I've been able to touch.
Nope.
You had some pretty good, back in your day, you were a pretty good runner.
Yeah, but that was when I was 18.
But that's what I'm saying.
I am no longer 18.
But what I'm saying is at one point in your life, you could have. My best mile ever was, I think, like 5:57. I know. See, look, she's over here scoffing at my times.
I just said,
What was yours?
5:04.
5:04, dang.
But I wasn't a miler.
Well, clearly I wasn't either.
Well,
Here we are.
Here we are. So, okay, let's talk about this SEC Championship meet. So, this is the last meet for the majority of Auburn's team. So, we're really glad that we got to come out and see such a great representation by Auburn. So, the meet was held on October 29th. It took place on the Gans Creek cross-country course. Almost messed that up,
I was going to say that 3 times fast, please.
Gans Creek cross-country course.
Gans Creek. That is an interesting name.
So, the women ran a 6K and the men ran an 8K.
And now we've seen some this season where there have been like 5Ks for the women sometimes, but this is the set time for postseason play and all that. Or not time, but the distance for that level.
Correct, except for the men next meet at the NCAAs will go to a 10K.
Why can't they standardize this thing?
I don't know. We've
I know,
talked about this before. It irritates me to no end. I don't know.
And I understand probably one of the reasons is maybe the course isn't set up to do so in an appropriate manner.
But so this course was a looped course.
Which you hate.
Right, but other people love. So the spectators love it. That's the information I've received is that the spectators love it, which makes sense.
Right.
Because if you go out to a cross-country meet, you don't want to see your kid or your loved one just one time.
Right.
You want to be able to see them multiple times.
I've always wondered that, like in these type of events, like in a bicycle race where they go downhill.
Or like
usually.
a marathon? Yeah.
It's like I spent all this time getting the spot and I saw him for 5 seconds.
Literally. And, I remember when I ran cross-country, it was very rare that I would actually see my family. Like, my mom and my dad and my grandparents were always there, but I never saw them. They always saw me, but there were so many spectators around, it's not like I'd be like, oh, hey, Mom! No, you're supposed to be focused and paying attention anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, like I said, this race took place October 29th. So, the weather was nice. The temperature was nice. However, the conditions of the course were not. So the course was really muddy. And actually, so when you think about it, I can't remember who ran first. Was it the men that ran first or the women? Somebody will comment and tell us.
I feel like I heard the women's results before I heard the men's, but that's
okay. And I was thinking the opposite. But you have to think the opposite. Whoever ran second, the course is going to be even muddier.
Which is
after everybody's run on an already muddy course.
And think how at the start of that, where everybody starts together, how much mud and debris was kicked up. We forget. We talk about track and field, and they've got, even in indoor, these nice facilities.
Oh, yeah.
But they're running, this is cross-country, you run on different animals. You run through sand traps. There I am
my gosh.
again with that, on a golf course.
These athletes get dirty.
Yeah.
I mean, really dirty. And, heaven forbid you trip and fall and get spiked and you're bleeding before the end of the course.
Right. Well, and I think, too, people think, well, what's the big deal? Why is cross country so different than just doing the mile on a track? Well, because there's so different elements.
Who says that? Because I have a bone to pick with them.
I didn't say anybody particular. I'm just saying that it just goes to show you why this is such a unique sport, because you have to train and you have to prepare for all different elements.
All different elements, but also all different terrains. Like you mentioned, all different types of courses, meaning multiple hills, some mountains occasionally.
Yeah, like how you can best traverse going through mud, through, loose dirt / sand, or going up and down hills, how to conserve energy, when to pick it up, and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And heaven forbid something happens to your shoes and you have to change shoes halfway through the season.
Oh, through the season. I thought you said through the course. Like, how does that happen?
Oh, no, not through the course, through the season.
Well,
like you get used to training in a certain type of spike or, shoe. And then halfway through, I mean, you have to train and change your footing and everything. It's just kind of, you wouldn't think it's a big deal, but it really is a big deal.
No, a lot goes into preparing for this sport, and it's, you can't take that away from them. So I'm sure mud was not fun to run in.
No. But it is interesting that we had some really great results despite the mud, which tells me that had there not been mud and this had been just a true regular, non-muddy course, dry course, I think our times would have been even better.
So not to focus on the mud so much, but I have a question from the layman's perspective here. Is it that the mud... Is it more that the mud causes you to slip, or that you're more cautious because of the mud?
Neither. The mud is going to slow you down. Think it's like slogging through something.
Right.
The mud inherently gathers all of your energy, and rather than giving it back to you like grass and sand would...
Did we just get scientific, like potential and kinetic energy on here? This show has gone to so many different places.
Sometimes I am intelligent. Rarely, but sometimes.
Again, that was not a commentary. I'm just saying the fact that we went to potential and kinetic energy here on this.
I didn't say that. I just said it absorbs your energy rather than giving it back to you.
Well, that's essentially what you're saying there.
Yes.
Sorry.
So
I have a science background, so I, can at least give you some words to use with
There you go.
I'm impressed. That was pretty good, analysis of what happens there.
Thank you. It's facts.
It is.
Okay, so do you want to tell us about the men's results?
Let's do the men for the 8K. Now, overall, they place 10th in the SEC championships with an overall point total of 250 points. Remember, the top 5 placers are the ones that contribute toward that points. The lower your score, the better. There are 111 runners total in 12 teams, so not dead last, but this is kind of where we've seen Auburn place a lot in previous years. Right? If I remember Ish.
So, but this year especially, the men's team was picked last for this race.
So they overperformed in the commentators' eyes.
They overperformed significantly. To get 10th instead of 12th is a big deal.
Well, and that was my point, is that even though you're seeing maybe the placing different, doesn't mean that they didn't do better. It's different competition, different individuals on each different team. So I think what we've seen this year with them, kind of a slight overachievement and through a lot of expectations so far.
Significant. I think Kyle is downplaying this team.
I wasn't done with my point.
I think we've seen a lot of growth and improvement with the new coach. I think Coach Kent has really done a lot with this team, and there's probably a lot of really good things to come in the next few years.
And with a new coach too in his first year, all you want to see is improvement.
Exactly.
So that's a huge thing for him in his first year.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about these results. The men were led by Ryan Kinane. He placed 29th overall, and he got a PR of 24 minutes, 23.2 seconds. Followed up closely by Tommy McDonough at 43rd place overall, 24 minutes, 55.1 seconds. This was his highest placement at the SEC cross country. What is that? Country championships. We go to Crunchy and now we go to Comfrey.
We are struggling.
In the last 5 years he's competed in. So great performance by Tommy McDonough. Finishing in the 3rd overall for Auburn, Cooper Atkins finished with a time of 25 minutes, 7.3 seconds for 53rd overall in the field. This was a PR for him by 14 seconds. So let's stop right there for just a second. Again, give people perspective. How significant is a 14-second differential for a PR, like improving by much?
It's really not a fair question. It's very significant.
Well, no, it is, because I think most people hear 14 seconds and they're like, well, that's just an arbitrary number to me. Like, how big is that? Like,
well, when you break it down into miles, so So a 5K is 3 miles, so this would be a little bit less than 6 miles, right, for an 8K?
We're doing science and math on here today.
So that's like 2 to 3 seconds off his mile every single consecutive mile.
Yeah, it's really impressive, and Cooper had a really strong performance here.
Hey Auburn fans, I want to take a quick timeout from this episode to bring your attention to something very special. Here at the E2C Network, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best content for Auburn fans out there. And best of all, it's free to you. But just because it's free doesn't mean there aren't costs, especially when you have a library of hundreds of podcasts, videos, blogs, and more. Many of you have reached out and asked how you can support this network in the past. Well, now I have your answer. It's called the E2C Network Booster Club over at patreon.com/E2C Network. There you'll find a membership monthly reward system where you can sign up for as little as $1 and get different perks at different tiers. Some of those perks include things such as apparel, eligibility to join us on future podcasts, recognition as an E2C Network booster, exclusive communications, and bonus content that is available nowhere else. If you love this network and want to help us keep producing podcasts like this one, please head on over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the E2C Network Booster Club. You can also get there by going to our website, e2cnetwork.com/support. Whether you decide to join or not, we are still so appreciative that you would support us by just listening and being here, because each and every one of you is part of our E2C Network family. Well, that's it. Timeout's over. Let's get back into the episode.
Let's finish out with the other three that performed. Carson Beddix finished 62nd overall with a time of 25 minutes, 16.2 seconds. Jackson Thomas finished with 25 minutes, 54.9 seconds for 84th overall. And then Mark Foster finished 27 minutes, 47.8 seconds for 106th overall. So no Auburn Tigers finished last, which is a great thing in that. The fact that we got above... we didn't have any in the bottom. We didn't finish in the bottom. I like that.
Okay, well, that's an interesting perspective. I like it too.
Well, I'm just saying, I want us to not be at the bottom of anything, individually and as a team.
That's why we're here. Different perspectives, right?
I guess so.
So for the women, we had quite a few competitors. We had 7 Auburn women compete. So they, like Kyle said before, they ran a 6K. They placed 9th overall out of 14 teams. So
all 14 SEC teams were represented.
Yeah, technically even higher placement for the women.
Yep.
Now, does that have to do with that something rule?
Yes. So there's Title IX, which dictates, how many, it's too complicated to get into, but just for reference again.
You have to have equal number of sports for men and women.
Men and women. So some schools in the SEC will choose not to have some of a particular sport. So obviously 2 SEC teams don't have 2 men's cross-country teams.
3. They only had 11 teams.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. 3 as opposed to have something else. I thought it was 2.
Nope, you're right. They had 12
It was 2.
teams.
So that's what's going on there, is that there are completely across the board in the SEC for cross-country, only 2 missing. I wonder who those were, actually. We'd have to look that up.
Search it up.
I'm going to search it up later, just because I'm curious about it.
We say that term lovingly. Normally we would say Google it, but a good friend of ours says search it up. So we always say that lovingly. So like I said, the women placed 9th overall with 253 points total. And there were 135 runners for the women's side. So our big star athlete, who we all know, is Joyce Camelli. She placed 2nd overall out of 135 runners. Kyle is doing the fist bump cheer over here that you can't see. But she placed 2nd with a time of 20 minutes, 4.1 seconds, which this matches the best finish by an Auburn woman at the SEC championship since 2010, not 1910.
It's a long time ago.
Probably didn't even have cross country back then. Since 2010, when Holly Knight finished 2nd. So it's been 11 years since an Auburn lady has finished 2nd at the SEC championship. So that's awesome. And this is also Joyce's best finish at the SEC cross country championship. She's been here quite a few times also.
Yeah, and we've seen her, win championships in other events and other, obviously, sports and track and field. But for her to come home with a silver medal out of the championships, I'm struggling not to say I expected it.
Oh, we did.
But it's just kind of like,
we say that in the most respectful way possible. It's not that we aren't ecstatic over it. It is just she has proven time and time and time again that when the times get tough and the competition gets really tough, she steps up. Joyce is top 10 when it's really, tough competition out there.
Yeah, and she really, I think pushes her teammates forward, because they, as you talk about a lot with this sport, it helps to have someone to chase after. And when you have, arguably, like as you said, a probably top 10 athlete in the sport for the SEC, if not in the country.
Yep.
We'll find out soon enough. That's really a great thing to chase after and to have on your team, whether it's in an individual basis, but also as a team.
Absolutely. So next for Auburn, we had Presley Weems. She placed 42nd in 21 minutes, 38.9 seconds. This time is only 5 seconds shy of her collegiate best. So you kind of think about that darn mud, and you just wonder,
You have a bit of a thing about the mud today, Jessica.
I'm just really disappointed. But
is there things coming back from your time running in the mud that are?
There may have been an instance where I fell and lost a shoe.
Whoa! Hold on. We're not moving past that. I'm sorry. I'm making an executive decision here. You were going to tell this story right now. Sorry. We're gonna come back, Presley, to talk about you, but because Jessica brought this up, we have to talk about it.
This was back at a meet held at UAH. I will never forget it. It was the only time we ever went to this course. Obviously, this is when I was in high school. I may have been even in 8th grade when we went to this meet. And two of my friends and I, Whitney, who actually used to co-host this podcast with me, she and I went through this mud pit, and it's not just like a mud pit. This is like, those Tough Mudder runs that people do now that are
Spartan runs, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that are popular now. So those weren't a thing back, 1,000 years ago.
Are you saying we were lazier and like?
No, I'm just saying it wasn't like, it just wasn't a thing. So Whitney, our friend Becca, and I, we hit this mud pit literally right at the same time. Something happens. I can't remember. Literally, Becca ends up face planted in the mud. I lost my shoe in the mud, and I think Whitney got cut or something. Like, she came out bleeding. Kyle, I'm telling you, this was like knee-deep mud. It wasn't like surface mud. This is like quicksand that you learned about in cartoons, and they're like, oh, you're going to die in quicksand. You need to learn how to get out of it.
So couldn't they direct the path to go around it?
So after the women's group went through, or back, we were high schoolers and middle schoolers, I guess girls went through them, the men got to bypass this part because everybody got so injured. I will never forget the last girl that went through. She's literally army crawling out of the mud. I mean, we were so dirty. Our coach was like, no, you need to go hose off before you get back on the bus. It was horrible.
I felt like there was a little repressed things back there. So you got your shoe back and you finished the race.
I got my shoe back, but I probably lost 45 seconds putting my shoe on.
Wow.
I mean, obviously nobody's times counted really that meet, since we're all just like literally playing in the mud and army crawling to get out of it. But there was that.
SEC's in the mud. That's the themes of this podcast.
So back to Presley. Like I said, her time was only 5 seconds shy of her collegiate best, and this is her best placement finish at the SEC championships of all the time she's been.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about Joyce, but Presley has also been a strong leader for the ladies this season.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's been so nice seeing her season to season really step up as a leader too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, because remember, Joyce wasn't here for basically half the season, even in a short season.
Right.
And Presley was the one leading the way a lot of the time. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up we had Samantha Rogers. She finished in 21 minutes, 59.0 seconds and placed 65th. Then almost right behind her, Sarah Pacer finished 67th in 22 minutes, 0.8 seconds. And this was a PR for Sarah and beat her last year's SEC championship time by more than 20 seconds.
Yeah, compare that to the 14-second differential we were talking about a little bit earlier, and that's even more. So put that into perspective.
That's absolutely incredible. So then we had Hallie Porterfield finish in 23 minutes, 31.8 seconds, placing 115th. Then, almost right after each other. So these ladies really were very close together. We had Louisa McPherson in 117th place in 23 minutes, 33.6 seconds. And finally, for the ladies, we had Hannah Thuss in 122nd place in 23 minutes, 43.3 seconds.
So I want to point something out here, because we talk about the top 5 runners score for you.
Right.
Look how close Louisa was to being the scorer over Hallie in that instance, if I have that right. Because you had Joyce, Presley, Sam, Sarah, and then Hallie. Mm-hmm. And then Louisa is less than 2 seconds from being part of the scoring for the team. It doesn't take anything away from her performance, but that's how close they were.
Yeah, absolutely. And then not even 10 seconds later was Hannah.
Right.
So, but it also shows you what it means to run in a group.
I wonder if Hannah lost a shoe, like someone else I know.
Shut up, Kyle.
I pictured
it happens to the best of us. I'm going to ask Whitney if she remembers that.
You should, because I would love to have been a fly on the tree next to that day just to watch.
Just remember, we're like 13, 14 years old, so we're awkward anyway. And then to be like...
You're still awkward.
Correct. But at 14 years old, I was much more awkward.
Oh, boy. I hate to see that.
Yeah, it was bad times.
But so overall, I think everybody overachieved in most people's eyes, especially the men.
Absolutely.
The women clearly had probably the better finish in terms of placement as a team, individuals, and that kind of stuff. But
yeah, I think both teams can be really proud of their performance.
Absolutely.
So our next meet and postseason begins November 12th, kind of back where I was saying, in Huntsville, Alabama, at the NCAA South
Y'all
Regional.
better get the mud taken care of, or Jessica will be on your butts.
So if we have any men competing, they will swap to a 10K. The women will still run a 6K in this event. So we will see who competes for Auburn, and we may do one postseason meet together podcast. I don't know how you want to phrase that.
Well, a lot of times what happens is you don't send your whole team there because you have to perform the best out of all the individuals to get invited to be there and stuff like that. So we're going to wait and see if there's enough information for us to talk about just the South Regional. We'll do that one. If not, we'll combine it all into one. Here's one thing I do know. Joyce Camelli will be there.
Absolutely. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.